It goes without saying that water has been an issue with all crops this year. And Josh, here at the Perkins Research Station, you've planted soybeans and there has been a difference in planting date, but also plant height.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we all know the floods and the recent weather have drastically affected our wheat crop, canola crops, and our summer crops. And for those folks around the state that were lucky enough to get the crop in before these rains, it's not been all sunshine past that. And we have an example of it right here to where we had the crop planted, the crop was actually emerged when we actually had floodwaters here. And basically what you're seeing is where you are in the field based on how you know the height, the depressions. We're either seeing the soybeans are perfectly fine or they're dead.
Well, and we're in what could be classified as kind of a low spot in the field, but just a few feet that way, having no water, you know, flooding those seeds over there has helped.
Yeah, exactly right. So we are here in a low spot, and if you kind of want to get down through here, you see these soybeans that were up when the floods waters are here. We basically have dead soybean plants here. But you're exactly right. You get about 10 feet down the row here, where it's a high spot in the field, yep. And we don't have anything dead, and it's a perfect stand. So a lot of things could happen. One, you could basically get a full termination of the plant like we have here. We also have in some of these smaller indentions to where we're delayed in maturity. So you even see just within 10 feet of each other, we have a trifoliate trying to work its way out here. We're still at cotyledon stage here. So we're now, that something that was planted the same day is now drastically different as far as maturity, and that could cause us a couple of really big things on down the line.
Are we seeing it in soybeans only? Are we seeing it in other summer crops?
See, the big thing is our broadleafs are a lot more sensitive.
Right.
And so when we have a broadleaf, it's like a soybean plant, probably even something like a cotton plant, go underwater. Most of our broadleafs, we like to say they don't like wet feet. And
right.
So anytime it goes underwater, we start really getting antsy and really getting questionable. If our growers do have parts of the field that have flooded out and parts of it that are not, we can replant part of the field. So that's always an option. There's a lot of options here, but it is kind of this week when we'll start to know the true effects of those flooding. It's typically that 7 to 10 days after. So if growers get their boots out in the field by this weekend, get a good look at what's out there, they'll have a good indication of what's keepable and what's maybe replantable. The good thing about soybean, we often see our June planted as one of our best yield potentials because it kind of fits in with our rain patterns.
Right.
And so there's still time. Your yield potential is probably going to be a little depressed, but there's still time to get really adequate yields out of your soybean crop. We just have to kind of get a little bit of break in the moisture to be able to get tractors in the field.
As far as soil nutrition goes, is there going to be any changes with that in the lower spots versus the higher spots?
Absolutely, and it's a little more influenced by something like a cotton or a sorghum or a corn crop where nitrogen's a big component. With our soybean, we don't really want to, or we don't really have that influence of nitrogen, which is what the nutrient you typically think about in those floodwaters is our nitrogen. Now we can have a diminish of some of our other nutrients, but where you're really wanting to look at is your sorghums, your corns, and your cottons. That's where a great thing, I say it almost every time we're on sunup, that enriched strip is going to pay dividends this year of being able to see how much of that pre-plant nitrogen is still there and how much we need to readdress. The other thing you have to think of is even if your crop comes out, your yield potential could be a little depressed. So we don't maybe need as much nitrogen as we potentially could have walking into this year, but those enriched strips are a great thing to have out there to kind of guide decisions.
Okay, thank you very much. Josh Lofton, Cropping Systems Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.